most women don't know how much of a trigger it is for a guy to receive an ultimatum because his default is going to be, say less, I'm gone. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what she wants. What she actually wants is she wants the ultimatum to be a big enough blow to wake him up. Mm-hmm.
He's done miracles on me. He's done miracles. Back again. He's done miracles on me.
Share that, man.
Because I mean, at the end of the day, we as people men who really care and oversee the women in our lives, get tired of the women keep getting misused.
Of course.
And of course we understand they sign up for it, and that's why we're speaking to them as opposed to their decision making, because we see it and they just disregard it. And so at some point you be like, man, like, you know what I'm saying, I can't want it for you, but you know what I'm saying, somebody listen. And if we could reach one person, that's very important.
Oh, absolutely. My pastor has a saying, I'm sure he heard it from somewhere, but I heard it from him, so I'm going to give him credit. The first 2 times, after that, God told me directly. This is how credit works. When the purpose of a thing is unknown, abuse is inevitable. Abnormal use is inevitable. The first time he ever explained it to me, he said it's the difference of having a hammer and having a screwdriver and using the screwdriver to nail the nail into the wall, to hammer the nail into the wall. Can you use the thicker end of a screwdriver to put a nail into a wall? Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. But you're using it incorrectly, and it will be extremely difficult. When there's a tool that's already designed, when skillfully know-howed, one hit can get this nail into this board. Mm-hmm. But abuse is inevitable when the purpose of something is unknown. So a lot of men, a lot of women, a lot of adult boys, and a lot of adult girls are coming into relationships without any real idea of the use of that other person, the role of that other person, or even their own. So they abuse themselves and you. And so they don't intentionally dog you. They don't know how to treat themselves. They've not appropriately assigned their own self to a particular function or attitude or way of doing things. Of course, you're going to suffer the same fate. They haven't aligned themselves. How can they properly align with you? This is one of the conversations Mark and I were having. If you're not intuitive enough, self-analytical enough, and I don't mean like beating yourself up by self-analyzing. I just mean like taking the time to do inventory on you to see where you stand with something. Self-accountability, absolutely. If you're not in tune enough with yourself to recognize where you are in time and space with how you feel, your triggers, your emotions, what you come from, where you're headed, you certainly aren't in position to take that person that you know so little about into a partnership or a conglomerate with somebody else. Respect that other person enough to say, there's still so much I'm learning about me, and even though I'm extremely attracted to you, I don't feel like I would value you appropriately at this stage in my life.
That transparency is key.
But people are like, but I want you. You're the new toy, and I don't mean to play with, but I just mean you're the shiny new thing.
I was like,
but for real, like you're this shiny new thing that I'm so attracted to that I want to have in my life. I want to have possession of it, and that's this thing. Like we want to possess you. We don't want to come alongside of you and help you succeed. We want to possess you. Like, I want you the way I want you.
Back to that control.
Absolutely correct. But I believe that comes from people who recognize, like, they don't recognize. I believe it comes from people who don't recognize that they don't even have any control over themselves. They have no accountability, no insight into who they are or what they're doing or where they're going. They feel like because I go to work every day, this is what I do, this is who I am. They've never really taken the time to ask themselves, because most people are scared to face those answers and or the work that comes on the other side of that answer.
Because the scariest person to look at in the mirror is yourself.
Absolutely correct. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So you take that person into, yo, baby, what's up? And she's like, oh, yeah, he does have a job. And he is tall, dark, and handsome. And, okay, boom. On the surface, alignment. Yeah, that's enough to get you to the dinner table. Your first conversation at the dinner table, forget all that favorite color stuff.
Absolutely.
Forget all where did you go to college? None of that matters. That's all trivial stuff those are details to win the newlywed game at the end after you are, you know what I'm saying? Those little interests. No.
Exactly.
Have you ever been to therapy?
Right.
I'm not saying you had to. I'm just curious
But
if you
have
have.
you gone?
Yeah.
Okay, if you have, what sent you, if you don't mind me asking? And how are you in regards to what you learned during that time and what you've been working on? If you haven't gone, is there a reason that you haven't gone? Have you ever, how introspective are you? How accountable are you to yourself? When you recognize fault in yourself, do you work on you? Do you share it with the people close to you? Are you vulnerable with the people around you? Are you closed off? Like, these are real questions.
Right.
All that superficial stuff that you can do that, caking with your feet up on the counter on them 4-hour long late night talks. Like, that's the time for that. Those real first dates, these are authentic interviews. And I don't just mean that you have to pry into their person.
No.
I just mean that, like Marcus and I were having this conversation too. I need to have the freedom to be my whole self during this conversation. And I need to give you the freedom to be your whole self so that we can freely, without pressure, see if we align during this interaction. And from that point forward, now we can begin to discuss the deeper things. But I need to know that the person I'm sitting across is not feeding me something.
Right.
I need that person to simply be in their existence so that I can analyze whether or not, like, I was walking through Walmart the other day. I feel like I got a spidey sense. It comes from childhood trauma, but low-key, I feel like I really do. I saw this dude talking to his girl. I didn't hear what he said, but I read his lips, and he said something about knocking her upside her head if she said something else. And I got to squeeze through them while he's having this violent thought. And I was like, excuse me, y'all, because I'm walking through. He thought I was interrupting the conversation, so he turned to me. This is the wall. This is the only space I got between me and him. And I felt my fight or flight, and for 1 second it flourished, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to do, like, in my head I'm like, all right, first I'm gonna have to duck because he's gonna try to do the club swing on me. I have to catch him with the left to the liver. I'm gonna push him off me and tell him, look, man, I don't want no smoke. If you see come forward, then I gotta lift up, pull out on him. It's gonna be a problem. This is all in a quick second. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know why I started this story.
My name is Shannon Dondell. I approve this.
Walmart. You was in Walmart.
Yeah, but why did I go to Walmart though? Not why did I actually go to Walmart? Why did I bring Walmart into this conversation?
Because you were saying like he turned around after he was being a negative thought, being abusive to the person he was with.
Why did I start this story? What did I say before that?
I don't know, but I'm interested in what happened.
No. I walked off. Like I don't know what he did after I got past his presence, but I know like that split second that I was passing him, instead of him just sliding over, the fact that he turned towards me, I felt threatened, and I'm like, okay, I need to be ready for whatever he does because he just had a violent thought towards her.
Right.
You don't turn that off that fast. So if I step into your violent moment, I could easily be the recipient. So my first thought was, if I hear his shoe turn on this floor, I'm ducking. I'm ducking and I'm turning and I'm coming with the left. Like I already know I can't punch with the right, so I gotta go this way. I thought all of this through.
Night.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you were trying to tie that all back into like in your first conversations with people, like what is your trigger? Like that was a trigger for you. What is so when you are out with your partner and you see that, you can be like we talked about in one of the episodes, like, babe, like we're good. Yep. Like we're okay. Like
yeah. Well, she wasn't gonna do that to him because she was the focus of his attention
not her per se, but
prayerfully, I came at a great time. Prayerfully, my excuse me was enough for him to come back and be like, look, I'm hungry, my bad. You know what I'm saying? But he was he looked like he's about to go inside her head before I said, excuse me.
Something that Courtney and I did talk about and that story actually resonated with. And it's really powerful because this podcast has really helped with the development of this thought. And it's asking your partner how they want to feel protected. And that gets to be like we could talk about it on a whole other podcast because it's not about ultimatums and boundaries. But it's super important because when it came up in that moment, and it's like, all right, if I'm walking with my girl and we have an altercation, how do you feel comfortable with me handling this? So I know. but I'm also going to communicate with you how I intend to handle it.
Right.
Because I want you to know what my natural, because you, like you said, your child, like traumas, they create instincts, and sometimes they are an absolute blessing because you go, oh, damn, the world is not just sunshine and rainbows. Some people want to act a fool.
Right.
And we need to be ready.
That spidey tingle means night-night. Now it could be night-night for the moment, or it could be night-night forever.
There you go. Choice is yours.
Choice is yours.
So you can get with that. Now you got an ultimatum. Now that's an appropriate ultimatum. You can either calm all of that down.
Yeah. So I think
or team night-night. It's up to you.
We got another time though. You got another one, Dot?
I do. So to kind of bring it back full circle to ultimatums, this is kind of long, so bear with me. But statistics.
How many questions are in this question? Like, are there several question marks within this big question?
There's 2.
Okay, let's go. I remember. That's why I'm trying to help her. Help us.
Can we make that 2?
Yeah. Can we go one at a time?
Well, okay. Statistics show women or
she's struggling.
She like, dang, now I gotta split it.
I gotta part 1. You know, there's 6 sections in this question.
Okay. Let me try this for the third time.
This was a thesis for my dissertation. You want me to break it up?
Statistics show that women are more likely to offer an ultimatum than men. Why do you believe that is?
Can you stop there?
Yes.
All right. So I do have this thought when it comes to it. Ownership and accountability as a man. If you aren't doing what you presented yourself to bring to the relationship, you then warrant the opportunity for a woman to come to an ultimatum, right? Like if she doesn't have confidence in what it is you guys are doing, what you're creating, where you're going, because if you're going to lead, women ask questions when they feel like you don't know where you are, right? Like they get confused and concerned because, again, their ability to enhance, but they're like, what do I work on right now? Like, where do I show support? So if you haven't given that peace of mind, you open the door to an ultimatum. So it's a huge opportunity as a man to be like, here, I want you. Now if I'm dealing with women, listen, there are women that I'm attracted to and I'm like, but is she the wife that I'm looking for? Because I can continue to operate with what my flesh wants, but now I'm looking for what my soul needs. So now I'm really ducking conversations where I'm like, yeah, like if my intuition and God's not telling me you're it, I can't play with you. So that the woman I sit down with, I can be very intentional with you.
Yeah, that's good.
So you know what I'm here for. And if you decide that you're not here for that, cool, I can move on. But I'm going to let you know, because as long as I set the stage and I go, this is the foundation I'm building on, are you able to help me build this? If the answer is yes, there's no need for an ultimatum. Because you now have confidence that you're partnered with somebody who is going to let you know where we're at in the process, where I can use your skills, where you enhance my weaknesses, so that we can build together. Yeah. So that removes the necessity for an ultimatum as a man.
Agreed.
Totally agreed. I think you would handle that.
I think the other reason women may be more prone to ultimatums goes back to the magnitude of control. And it's not that the woman wants to be controlling. She feels that the situation is out of her control. She's trying to gain some. I think at some point she feels like, and I don't mean to project or just assume anything about all women in general, but I believe that at some point many women in this position feel as if they have no control, and therefore they do something very desperate for some magnitude of dignity to say, I cared enough about myself to make a very hard choice. I just personally believe that hard choice was probably presented in a way that could have been preventative, because most women don't know how much of a trigger it is for a guy to receive an ultimatum, because his default is going to be, say less, I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what she wants. What she actually wants is, she wants the ultimatum to be a big enough blow to wake him up, which is her trying to get control again of some means of control. Like, I don't feel like I have enough happening. I don't feel like enough of my voice or my presence is being valued in this relationship. Therefore, I'm going to threaten to take it away. And hopefully that's enough to make you wake up and say, okay, clearly I've been doing too much of me. What can we do for you?
Right. So to that point, real quick, when you talked about the women wanting control, it brought me back to the scripture in Genesis 3:16. And this is after all the stuff happened. They ate the fruit. And then God was like, this is what's about to happen to all of y'all. So to the woman, he said, then he said to the woman, I will sharpen the pain of your pregnancy. People kind of just stop right there. And in pain, you will give birth. But this is the part that always sticks out to me. And you will desire to control your husband, but he will rule over you. And so I think a lot of times people get stuck in there, or women get stuck in that place, like, I need to be able to control him and control this situation. And that desire comes from a place of the curse. And that's not the way that God intended for things to be. And I know a lot of women have issues with the word submission. Like, that's a bad word. Like, I'm not going to submit to what this man is going to. I'm going to do what I want to do, whatever. But submission is not a bad thing, which would be a whole other different topic. Correct. When you are submitting to the right person. And so a lot of times there are women who are trying to be in relationships with people who are not the right person, and then they're trying to control that person from that aspect. But they can't, because that's not the way that things were ever supposed to be. So.
But I will also say, to like piggyback on that, not only is it a curse, but it's a trauma response. Mm-hmm. Wanting to be in control is a trauma response. So if I feel like, women feel like you're in a situation where you're unsafe for whatever reason, which lack of direction makes you feel unsafe, right? You're going to try to then gain that control back to feel safe again and create that stability that you're missing. Right. But that's the wrong way to go about it, because if you are with the right partner, you are in alignment, right? Like,
you gotta come back. You were the opposite way.
Okay. You're right. You're right.
It was wrong. I didn't make sure you understood.
That's right.
Slide back in.
Anyway, now you lost my train of thought.
Welcome to the group. I went to Walmart. I don't know where you going.
Fries.
You got it.
Target.
Gone.
0.
Oh, that's what I was saying. But if you're with the right partner, right, and you're in alignment, then that conversation is that within those boundaries of, hey, like right now things don't feel safe, don't feel stable. Can you give me some sense of direction of where we're going?
That is such a
to then be back in that submission piece of it that people misunderstood.
I feel like that conversation doesn't happen enough. I feel like a lot of women are likely in situations where they don't feel safe, they don't feel secure in the path, secure in whatever aspect of the relationship. But in many cases, it doesn't come out direct in that form. We would respond much better to a direct confrontation with those words. Listen, I don't mean to challenge your thinking. I don't even mean to challenge the way that you lead. I simply want to bring to your attention that based on what I'm seeing, I don't feel safe for this reason. Right. Can you help me feel safe regarding whatever this topic is? What we get instead is, in general, not every, obviously there's exceptions. What we get instead is, you going golfing again? You always golfing. Just sweetheart, just tell me you want some quality time. Don't challenge the thing that I do that brings me peace. A great pleasure or peace to my life. Like, you knew, like the day we met, I had my bag on my shoulder. You know what I'm saying? Like, you met me at the driving range as I was leaving, whatever. And so, whatever that may be, verbalize it directly. Don't talk symptoms. Always talk root. Men are root talkers. So you don't have to give ultimatums if you've had root conversations along the way. Right. Ultimatums usually come up when you've had a lot of symptom conversations, a lot of flowers on the tree, but not the trunk of the tree, not the root of the tree. You've been talking about, well, is never a root. Root conversations don't even have tones to them. When you're having an actual root conversation, those two people approach that table maturely.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? You've never had an authentic root issue conversation with all of this. Because you know that, listen, I'm getting to the root cause of this thing. I'm trying to uproot something I see that's damaging to what I deem is valuable. I'm not going to approach it with stuff that I know is going to set him off or not get us to a place of resolution. I'm going to approach this conversation with maturity so that we can be dope on the other side of this. Because ultimately, that's what every real interpersonal conversation should be about, is a mutual sharing of making each other better on the other side of it. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be from awareness, from building up, impartation, whatever the case may be. And so I feel like it hurts my heart that so many women feel that they are pushed to the point where an ultimatum is necessary. Right. In their mind, somehow they've concocted that the only option left is to threaten the removal of something I deem is valuable to him. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find out the hard way or the good way whether or not I'm valuable to him, but there's a lot of easier ways to check that value temperature than putting it all on the line and risk the utter heartbreak that he might give you on principle. That's what y'all got to understand. Like, on principle, the fact that you put us on the line for this issue and you put that in my face, I will leave on principle because you didn't deem me valuable or mature enough to just have a regular conversation with. If you see me as the kind of person who requires an ultimatum, I will make this easy for you from this point forward.
It's an immediate disrespect to the relationship and partnership.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely. Hands down.
I want to say something real quick.
She still got a second part question too, so please say what you're saying. But we need to remember, because I'm long-winded. I'm gonna shut up next time.
You got it.
I'm gonna shut up.
So there's that part going back in. It leads into something you said though, like when we were talking about the having conversations and having those real conversations as you did with the first date conversation, second date. I say that you should have that whole thing of a questions conversation, like literally ask a question, no boundaries, no nothing. One of the main questions that has to be asked, and I know you kind of touched on this, and you said that you might not want to get all the way up in somebody's stuff, but I'm kind of opposite. I'm like,
you hit this before.
I want to know exactly.
You asked, like, had you been sexually violated, right?
Exactly.
Because y'all didn't know if I'm a trigger for you.
Exactly. Because then you know the other things that are going to come along with that. I do need to feel safe. I do need to feel secure. I do need to know what's going on. Right. I do need to know what's going on with us.
I'm not questioning you. I'm questioning this environment. I need to know, are we safe here?
Exactly.
I'm not saying you shouldn't have brought us here. I'm saying, since you brought us here, have you peeped all the exits? Because I need to know that we're good in this space. Listen.
That's all right.
It's really important. But again, that goes down to asking questions that create a sense of safety.
Yes.
So that somebody feels comfortable being able to have that conversation.
Exactly.
I'm not saying, because I am not one for favorite color conversations. Like, I'm going to learn your favorite color by being around you.
Thank you.
Mama.
Yeah, absolutely.
You keep saying green, mama.
I got it.
Green.
Exactly.
Right. But I think those conversations are extremely valuable and necessary for you to understand the people that you have in your life. And something that came up in this question around the idea of control. Mm-hmm. For me personally, because I can only speak for myself, I recognize that the only women in my life that are fighting for control, I haven't let know that I'm utilizing the resource that they are to its full capacity.
Say that another way.
So,
I heard you, but I didn't hear you.
If women only seem to fight for control when they're not being utilized appropriately. Mm. So if we're driving and you're now combating with me, challenging me, like, do you know where you're going? You're talking to me reckless because you were my co-pilot and I didn't enroll you in the process.
Facts. You're supposed to be the navigator if you're in the passenger seat.
Right. So this relationship is marry me or get out. Yeah. Because I didn't let you know what route we were on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if I enroll you in it and we're building a house and a home and I'm also like, yo, this is what we see in our future. King talked about it earlier. Here's our 3-year plan. Here's our 5-year plan. Are you in for this? Like, where are we off track? Are we in alignment? Right? Now, she doesn't have to fight for control. She can be the resource, because one of my biggest issues when I see this with women, and this is from family, friends, business partners, clients, is that women are fighting to be the boat. They're like, man, I want to be the boat. Whether you want to be the speedboat, the tugboat, the cruise ship, doesn't really matter. And it's really obnoxious for real men to look and go, why the hell would you want to be the boat when you're the ocean?
Facts.
Why would you be fighting me to be the boat when you're the ocean? Because a boat without the ocean is what?
Pointless, useless.
An inanimate object.
Yeah, facts. A decoration.
And then you go, in relationship, for men, when God didn't say, when you find a husband, you find favor. Your blessings don't come when you find a husband, but when a husband
say
finds
it again.
Wife, right? Like that's where your
Right
blessings
here.
are unleashed, because everything you give her, she's designed to enhance. If you aren't giving her something to enhance, she is now lost and confused as to what's going on, and then therefore, after a while, the only thing left is an ultimatum.
That goes
Right.
right back to the scripture she said.
Right.
Right back to it.
And that's what
because
like really
that's
triggered.
the part of it. Exactly. That's the part of it that people
good.
miss.
That's
And the thing
You're
that
not supposed to be.
as much as I
What
don't want
about
to
that
acknowledge all the purple and gold in this room, right?
waiting.
But the reality,
waiting.
but the reality is though, you got to think like
Sure,
the Kobe and Shaq relationship was phenomenal,
Yep.
right? Absolutely phenomenal. But the resources were being used appropriately. And then when you got rid of the resource, or you started to create havoc with the resource, when Shaq was now a problem for Kobe, he had to leave, and you saw everything fall apart. That's what happens in our relationships all the time. But as long as Kobe was utilizing Shaq for the powerful resource that he was, there was no issues. That's where that's when ultimatums come up, and then what happens? You send them over to. We ain't with that version of Shaq.
You gotta read.
Version.
You gotta read.
Yeah. Then you brought in Powell, and we talked about that earlier, right? But like when you utilize the women in your life for what they are supposed to be utilized for, because I'm not using you.
Right.
I'm benefiting from your presence.
Correct.
But ladies, on the other side of this, we touched on this a minute ago. Stop putting bootleg versions of men in that position where you're now overworking and you can't multiply anything because he's not bringing anything to the process.
He's
I'm not gonna say the
holding
table, 'cause people get
space.
so butthurt. Yeah.
Bootleg
And
stepchildren.
yeah, all of the
Lizard
above.
face.
All of the above.
Holding
Shannon touched on this earlier. A real man is not going to come into your life when you have a little boy sitting in the driver's seat. It's just the reality.
Yeah, no, you're gonna leave that little boy
He's
there.
gonna be like, oh,
She must like little boys.
That's
driving.
true. She likes daycare. I'm gonna let you.
Somebody else
run your
already
daycare.
driving.
That's
Why would I get in the car?
right.
Yeah.
Other daycare kids will try to jump in the car.
Absolutely.
Nah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but no,
Absolutely.
Nah, grown man? No.
Nah.
not a
Be
triple
like,
OG.
oh, you got someone in the driver's seat? Cool, let him drive.
Not a triple OG.
That's your Uber.
Real talk? You already got an Uber driver.
You're
This ain't a
good.
ride share.
Make sure you subscribe and come back next week for the continuation of this conversation.
I'm not going to respond to this clear ultimatum the way I want to respond. Like, all right, I'm going to go talk to Jesus. So I prayed on it. Then I talked to my pastor. I prayed on it again. And I came back and we sat down and I let her know that I was willing to weather this storm, to give it a chance. Like I wanted to be open to it.
Right.
But what I realized in that moment was it was such an intense violation for me that it had hit a non-negotiable for me. Not only did you give me an ultimatum, you also have violated the sanctity of our relationship by bringing outside people into it
Right.
and excluding me from it.
Yeah.
Then you brought to the table your decision.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
wasn't
had to
even
either fall in
included.
line.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so
That's
then I
three
had,
violations.
You removed
I don't even
So-
know sports, but I feel like you would be out the game.
3 strikes
You
and
took
you're-
my choice away.